Welcome. Welcome to the Legislative Council meeting. We're holding this meeting virtually under the authority of the virtual meeting procedures adopted by the 151st General Assembly and House Concurrent Resolution Number 1. This meeting is being held via Zoom and broadcast on the General Assembly's Joint Committee YouTube channel. If you have questions or comments about this meeting, please direct them to legislative.council@delaware.gov or call the Division of Research at 302-744-4114. That's 302-744-4114. Because we're meeting virtually today, I've asked Mark Catrona to call the roll for attendance and voting purposes. Mr. Catrona, please call the roll.
Thank you. Representative Dukes?
Present.
Representative Dukes present. Senator Hawker?
Present.
Senator Hawker present. Senator Lockman? Senator Lockman absent. Representative Longhurst?
Present.
Representative Longhurst present. Representative Mitchell?
Present.
Representative Mitchell present. Senator Pettyjohn?
Present.
Senator Pettyjohn present. Mr. Speaker?
Present.
Mr. Speaker present. Mr. Pro Tem?
Present.
Mr. Pro Tem present. Representative Short?
Present.
Representative Short present. Senator Townsend?
Present.
Senator Townsend present. Mr. Speaker, the roll call reveals 9 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. The quorum being present, Legislative Council is now in session. Before we begin, I want to note that I have verified the identity of each member of council to my satisfaction. With that said, first order of business is the approval of December 16th, 2021 meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
Mr. Speaker, I motion we approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
Motion by Senator Sokola. Second by who?
I'll second. Pete.
Second by Senator Hawker. Mr. Catrona, please call the roll on the motion.
Representative Dukes?
Yes.
Representative Dukes, yes. Senator Hawker?
Yes.
Senator Hawker, yes. Senator Lockman? Senator Lockman absent. Representative Longhurst?
Yes.
Representative Longhurst, yes. Representative Mitchell?
Yes.
Representative Mitchell, yes. Senator Pettyjohn?
Yes.
Senator Pettyjohn, yes. Mr. Speaker?
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, yes. Mr. Pro Tem?
Yes.
Mr. Pro Tem, yes. Representative Short?
Yes.
Representative Short, yes. Senator Townsend?
Yes.
Senator Townsend, yes. Mr. Speaker, the roll call reveals 9 yes, 1 absent.
I received the required vote. The minutes are approved. First item, second item on the agenda is, or third item on the agenda is the Legislative Council report. Mr. Catrona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, representatives, senators, staff, and members of the public. Since our last meeting, the Division of Research, Facilities Management, Capitol Police, and others have been working hard on projects related to both the legislative process and our facility, and I wanted to highlight a few of those for you. At the December council meeting, you approved 3 pieces of legislation: the annual technical corrections bill, legislation to provide a clear line of succession to the duties of Controller General, and legislation to authorize a pay increase for the code revisers. I'm happy to report that all 3 of those pieces of legislation passed the General Assembly and were signed by the governor. With the signing of the revisers legislation, we are now paying the revisers at the rate authorized by council at its September meeting. One kind of noteworthy thing or an exciting thing I have to share is that the technical corrections legislation was both introduced at the earliest time ever and signed into law at the earliest time ever. And I'd like to thank Debbie Gottschalk for her work on that. She put in about 131 hours of work and it has paid off. If that seems like a lot of time, it's because there are 50 different sections to that bill. And often it's like drafting 50 separate pieces of legislation. This process takes time and dedication, and we're so appreciative of Debbie's work, bringing the idea of the annual technical corrections bill to life for the first time in 2017 and continuing to draft it each year. It's a true multi-agency success story from the revisers and editor at Lexis to the state agencies. And not only are those agencies huge partners in reviewing the proposed changes, they're also now forwarding issues throughout the year that we log, review, and draft for inclusion in the next bill. So thank you all. I want to turn to our great facilities team that has been hard at work to maintain and improve Legislative Hall. We'll hear more from Director Jennifer Coverdale in a minute, but I do want to thank her and her team, especially the staff assigned to Legislative Hall, Justin King, Randy Kenton, Darren Schaefer, the rest of their crew, who are here all hours doing things like removing snow, maintaining the HVAC system, installing baby changing stations and feminine hygiene product dispensers in the bathrooms. Thank you so much for all you do. Relatedly, I hope you've had an opportunity to check out the new furniture in the cafeteria. The high top bars will be delivered on Monday and they'll be placed against the north and south walls. The rest of the furniture is in and has already been getting positive reviews. Thank you, Kalinda, for all your hard work organizing that. Also at the December meeting, Council approved a number of security upgrades recommended by Capitol Police, and those projects are in the planning and material gathering stages now. I'd be remiss if I didn't pass on some pretty huge news from the staff to the Joint Legislative Oversight and Sunset Committee. First, they have used the new live streaming capabilities in our legislative committee rooms in Tatnall to successfully broadcast 6 JLOSC meetings since January 24th. Mark and Amanda were holding down the fort in the committee room while the committee, agency staff, and the public participated remotely. Thank you, Mark and Amanda, for adding broadcast producer to your already full plates. And thank you to Jan and Angel and the entire team from contractors on up for getting the technology set up in these rooms. Second, many of you have been or are on JLOSC, and you know it's the job of that committee to look for ways to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of state government. Under the leadership of the chairs, Mark and Amanda have turned that work inward as well and have looked for ways to improve JLOSC itself, leading to a revised process that has resulted in the JLOSC already completing 5 of its 7 reviews for 2022. This process formally took multiple meetings to accomplish, and now they're able to get the presentation and recommendations done in one meeting with the new streamlined process and staff report that they're using. So thank you, Mark and Amanda, and our legislators on JLOSC. While we weren't able to hold a legislative drafting training this year, I want to thank Holly for her hard work putting together an updated legislative drafting legislative drafting manual that we will be sharing publicly soon. It's even more user-friendly with the addition of an index that she's worked hard on, and it includes some boilerplate language to address frequent drafting issues we've encountered. The very brief Legislative Building Committee update. The firm working with the committee is finishing up the space study and preparing a final report for that committee's consideration. If you're a member of the committee, please take the legislative space survey that's in your emails by Friday. Finally, these reports are always so hard for me because there's so much good work being done by the division staff. Just know that there are staff that have been working hard to answer calls from the public, manage fiscal operations for the division, provide for the General Assembly's printing needs, conduct research, publish regulations and other legal materials, and draft and proofread legislation. Thank you for this. Thank you to this great team for all of your hard work. I know that they each stand ready to assist all of the members in what lies ahead this session. Thank you, Council, for your time.
Jennifer there? I don't even see her on here.
Mr. Speaker, Jennifer Coverdale is here, yes.
Yes, I am.
Do you have something you want to tell us about facilities management?
Before we get to that, Mr. Speaker, I think Ruth Ann has her report from the General's office.
I'm following the agenda. You wrote up the.
I'm sorry.
They're right behind you, but we can go. We can go to her. We can go to Ruth Ann.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hello, everyone. I can go very quickly. So just a quick update. We are done with JFC hearings. So I have to give a huge shout out to all the staff that were down here They made things run very smoothly. We operated in a virtual and an in-person format. And in order to do that, everyone had to sort of step out of their traditional role of being budget analysts, and they had to become IT people, and they had to become producers, and they had to make sure that everybody got what they needed at the right time. And they did that without ever complaining. They just stepped in and did whatever needed to be done. I could not be prouder or more grateful to work with the group that we have down here. So with that said, the operating budget stuff is sort of, ongoing, but for right now, we'll sit tight until the next DFAC meeting occurs on March 21st. In the meantime, we will be working on the capital budget. So bond bill hearings are scheduled to start on March 28th, and we'll operate them in the same format that we operate at JFC, where the public can participate in person or virtually as well. Also related to bond bill, we have gone live with the new Community Reinvestment Fund application for organizations who want capital funds. We've been getting some calls and some applications already for that. So we're excited that we now have a streamlined process for all of them to apply for money through. The applications for that are due on May 15th. And at that time, we'll do some consolidated reporting and share all of that with the bond bill committee members. As far as grant and aid, staff is currently reviewing all the applications that came in. And during the interim until markup, we will be meeting with JFC members to go over the applications that were received and hear what their sort of recommendations are for the coming year. In the meantime, we are still drafting and tracking all the fiscal notes that are coming through so that we make sure we're prepared for them in markup should those bills pass. We're also tracking other budget issues that arise to make sure that we have those numbers and can fully inform JFC. One of those big things that I wanted to let all of you know about was on February 28th, the State Employee Benefits Committee met and voted on a couple things relating to group health insurance. One of those is that there is a deficit projected in the group health insurance plan. And in order to solve that deficit, a couple decisions were made. One of them is there is a premium rate increase coming for state employees, and that's a rate of increase of about 8.67%. And while the percent never sounds great, what that actually translates into is a dollar amount change of anywhere between $29 and $284 per year, an additional that will come out of the employee paycheck. But the state subsidy amount that has to be added in for that is anywhere between $694 and $1,858 per year per employee. And so what that means is for the operating budget, we're going to have to add in over $40 million to cover that state increased subsidy. So that was one decision that was made. And then the other decision that was made was to move the Medicare plan option to a Medicare Advantage plan, which will be administered by Highmark. This will be effective January 1st of 23. This means that everyone will retain the same benefits that's in the current program, but the move will have a positive impact on the state's outstanding liability for post-retirement health benefits for pensioners. This was also recommended by the Retirement Benefits Study Committee. And Mr. Speaker, that is all I have to report. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions of Ruth Ann? Seeing no questions, thank you very much. So now we'll go to the next item, which I wanted to offer my apologies. I got ahead of myself and I turned the page over and I went to Jennifer. So my apologies to you, Jennifer, as well as Mark.
No
Jennifer,
problem. No problem at all. Hello, everybody. So I just wanted to give you guys an update as to a couple projects that are coming down the pike for Legislative Hall specifically. One is the legislative window repair and replacement. We have just selected the A&E firm for that project. It will be RG Architects. We actually just met with them on site this past Friday, and we're just waiting on their proposal to come in for us to move forward with that one. In addition to that, there's also going to be a core foundation repair, looking at resealing the foundation in the front of the building. We have also selected RG Architects for that as well. And while they were already out there on Friday, we had them look at that as well. So we're waiting on a proposal for that one as well, so they can start on the timeline and the costs associated for that work. We are also in the process of doing the exterior stair replacement that will be happening this year. It's on the west side. Studio Jade is the A&E firm for that. We're going to do an actual letter bid, and we're working on the paperwork to go out May. So then that way we can mobilize everything in July to start that project. The materials are already here, so we don't have to worry about waiting for materials to come in for that project. The other topic that I wanted to talk to you guys about is the Legislative Hall roof replacement. That originally went out to bid in December and January of 2022. The bids were rejected for a couple different reasons. One, the bids came in twice as high, and there was unsuitable bidders for the type of project that is going to happen with the roof project. There's a lot of things that are involved with different roofing materials. And then there's a material delay right now of 12 months, specifically for the flat roof. So because of the time constraints with getting contractors to bid on the project, which in turn lowers the pool of contractors bidding on that project, can also add to the increase cost of that. I'm looking to rebid the project. However, I'm also asking if there's any sort of flexibility for the months in order to get this specific project done instead of just July to December.
Okay. Myself and Senator Sokola and Mark Catrona, we had this discussion earlier. We wanted to bring it to the board or to the council here. Part of the reason, well, we're figuring this out, according to Jennifer, because they have to stop while we're in session, it's going to increase the cost because, you know, we're hoping that if we let them work throughout the year through, you know, without having to take that break, that possibly we would get a lower bid. Is that correct, Jennifer?
Yes, so I think it's two parts. That's part of it. And then the other part is to be able to widen the amount of contractors that you do get who are more experienced, who are choosing not to bid on the project because there's such strict time constraints. And then obviously having the material delay of 12 months. I completely understand not wanting to mess with the June timeframe because there's a lot that happens during that timeframe. But even during the shorter months, if we could have a little bit of an extension so that way we can keep running through, I think it will, you know, work better from that standpoint, from a lower cost and more suitable bidders.
Yeah, Senator Skoll and I discussed it, and we're okay. Let me speak for myself. Dave can speak for himself. So I'm fine with working the full time, no breaks. I'm fine with opening it up so that hopefully you'll get some more competition in there, which drives down costs. So we can deal with the banging and we can deal with the lack of parking spaces or whatever. We'll just have to adapt. And that's how I feel. And I'm throwing it out to the rest of you for your comments on it as well.
And I certainly do agree with Pete.
Anybody else have any problems with it? No? Sounds good. Oh, who's talking?
I agree with you, Pete.
Yeah,
Okay.
fine.
All right. So that's, you got your answer.
Okay. That's, but I also do want to make sure that I do mention in the meantime, because I know that there are some leaks within that building that are currently taking place, that I did meet with a roofer last week to go on top of the roof to take a look. They are giving me a price quote right now to spray the top of that roof, just so you guys are all aware, so we can figure out exactly where that leak is coming from, so we can seal it, patch it, until we obviously get you the new roof on. So I just don't want you to think it's just being put to the side.
Yeah, I think the council needs to understand about the condition of that roof. From what I understand, if when you walk on the flat part of that roof, it moves. It's flexible, and it's not supposed to be flexible. So, you know, before somebody falls through there, we need to get this thing fixed. So, okay. Any other questions, concerns for Jennifer? Seeing none, moving on to the next issue. Legislative Hall reopening plans. I wanted to have a discussion with all of the leadership while we're here. This is not necessarily a legislative council issue, but I want to take this opportunity to have this discussion. I want to make it perfectly clear that the decision to open the conditions that we set forth opening the House and the Senate are strictly the decision of Dave Sokola as pro tem and me as a speaker. But we both want to have your input, and we'll put statements out after a while, later today or tomorrow. Our intent, and Dave, again, I'll speak for me. My intent is to open the building up, get us back in session, go back to as much normal as possible. That's something that we've been dealing with the Senate and working on, but I want to hear from everybody else on the screen here. Senator Pettijohn.
Thanks, Pete. You know, with everything else opening back up, you know, schools open, no mask, things like that. It's there's no reason why, you know, the public can't be in the building and participate in the process like they had done before. Numbers look down, everything's looking the positive direction. So, I mean, I'm all for opening back up.
Yeah, we discussed it. We're talking about, you know, if we put the statement out that we have, starting next week, we'll no longer require the staff and legislators to show proof of vaccination or negative test, standard Lolly Hall. No longer require staff, lawmakers, or visitors to wear masks or face coverings in the building, although it's recommended, but you don't have to do it. We're going to put things out in recommendations. So we would ask that people that are not vaccinated wear a mask, but you know, I don't know how we could enforce that. So if they're being legitimately responsible about it, they'll put a mask on. If not, you know, but I think we're at that stage where we need to get back in session to a normal setting.
The statement does include that if somebody does get COVID, for instance, we will continue to allow them to participate remotely. We're going to be very flexible on that. We're going to have, we've got the technology, we can certainly do it.
Yeah. Any other comments?
Gerald.
Ryan and I agree with your statement, and I think it should be opened up. Everything else is, and I don't know why we're not.
Yeah,
I agree with your decision.
So, Larry, Mitchell.
Thanks, Pete. And I also agree with it. I think not only we should be open, but I think we have a responsibility to be open at this point because, you know, every indication from the governor, we're going back to as normal as possible. And the numbers are down. So from going forward, unless things changes, I think we need to be back in that building and allowing the public back into the building.
I agree. I, for one, am looking forward to it. I think it's much more productive and actually easier to run that building when people are in it versus a virtual session. So I am very happy to be announcing that we are going to be opening up and allowing the public back in and getting everybody back in the building. Any other comments?
Yeah, I have one, Pete.
Up, Danny. Representative Short, I'm sorry.
Thank you. So when we're talking about normalcy, and I agree with what everybody has said so far, but when we're talking about normalcy, we're talking about session on Tuesday, committees on Wednesdays, session on Thursday. I mean, what is the actual schedule so we can let our troops know what the calendar will look like?
Each chamber will be putting something out today or Monday, probably today or tomorrow rather. Our plan in the House is to come in on Tuesday. We're going to have a swearing in on Tuesday of some sort. So we're going to come in on Tuesday, do some resolutions, that type of thing. We're also going to have committees on Tuesday and committees on Wednesday. And then a vote on Friday, full vote on Friday. Thursday. Where is my head today? Thursday. I'm sorry.
The Senate's also going to have something that's kind of a transition, so it's not going to be completely back to normal. We are going to continue to have hybrid or virtual committee meetings, with the exception of executive, which will be in person. There are members of the public who we want to be able to participate, and the hybrid is actually harder than the virtual. So, and staff, because of the Omicron bounce, made it very difficult for the training to get everybody up to speed on that. So we're going to give them this month to get completely up to speed. I did hear something I liked in Mark's report earlier about the Tatno building, and the Joint Legislative Oversight and Sunset Committee had their meetings from there. And I'm wondering if both of those rooms have that capability, because that might give us a whole lot more flexibility. They're a little bigger than our caucus room, for instance, which would really help with this kind of transition reopening.
So we're basically doing the same thing. We're doing, my understanding right now, it's going to be virtual committee meetings on Tuesday, even though we're in the building. And then we'll move on as soon as we get the technology locked down. I think Senator Lockman had her hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was really just going to ask a question that I think that Senator Sokola already answered around, I was going to echo what everyone said. I'm really excited to be back in a legislative hall that feels the way we're used to it feeling, with the energy and the public present. But I was just sort of, wanting to make sure that it was clear that we were going to have a little bit of a moderated approach to the committee hearings, not just because of ongoing things with COVID, but I think because we have had such strong engagement and we're hearing a lot of positive feedback about being able to continue to connect virtually from members of the public who either aren't able to, have never been able to, or are still not comfortable coming to the hall. So I think Senator Sokola really already covered that. I just wanted to reinforce it.
Representative Dukes?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, just wanted to confirm Wednesday will also be a committee day and it will be in the hall.
We will let you know later, but yes, I think that's pretty much the way it's going to go. We're still waiting. They're still working on the technology. They're not sure that they can have the technology right by next week. So we might have, that's the transition phase that Dave was talking about.
Then also, and I guess, I don't know if this is a caucus decision or a chamber decision, but how are we going to do with having our individual caucuses?
Same as normal.
I mean, well, we've been going in the House. We've been going in early Thursday.
That's up to you guys what you do. We will start session at 2:00 and we'll move from there.
So we're not going to stop after we open and go down to caucus and then come back. I mean, traditionally when we've gone in session, we would open up and do the pledges and things.
We haven't even had that discussion for Friday yet, or for Thursday yet. We'll let you.
You're still in Florida, aren't you?
I'm telling you, man, it's hard to get back into it. That's for sure. I will say that I needed it. I needed that little break. And just totally relaxed. So we'll let you know, Tim.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any other comments?
Majority Leader.
You got a couple hands raised, Pete.
I can't see them. I have. I do see
Representative Longhurst.
Yes, Representative Longhurst. But your hand is faded into the background of the fog you have back there. Representative Longhurst.
I have to be different. I think we were discussing doing caucus, trying to do caucus before, and because we have longer caucuses, is kind of teeing it up and doing caucuses before, and then if we don't get through it, we're going to do caucuses after we go into session. We seem to feel that like we have such a heavy, such an overload of caucus members that we have to get started. And we found that doing it early was like a lot more helpful to get it on the floor. Just as an FYI.
Trina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to answer the Pro Tem's question about the rooms over in Tattenall. There is only one room that's available as a meeting room and is also set up to live stream. And that's the main one, room 112.
Representative Short.
Yeah, I see him now.
Okay,
good. I'll tell you what the problem was. The problem was one of the cameras was off and it had moved to, I only have 9 people on my screen. So and there's like, I don't know, 20 people on here. So anyway, Representative Short, I see his.
Well, thank you. We all get questions all the time about what we're doing and how we're operating. So I guess part of my question today would be, how do we answer the issue with regard to the hybrid and the Zooming remote now that the governor's order has changed from a legality standpoint? We have a whole host of people that we try to deal with. They're on both spectrums of the world, to the far left and far right, about what we do. So my question is, from a legal standpoint, I don't know if Mark here is the attorney. How does that play out from that legitimacy of the legal aspect of the way we're going to work?
Mark, you got your hand up.
I think we can continue to operate under House Concurrent Resolution number 1 as long as the pro tem and speaker find that there is an emergency to which we're responding. And I think that would be in line in some regard to the changes that were made to the Freedom of Information Act related to continuing the allowance for remote participation at these meetings, given the public health status of the community, to keep down the spread. So that's definitely a good question and something more to dig into, but I think there is a legal basis to continue for at least a short time.
Yeah, and just keep
important to note that when the governor ended the last state of emergency, he did reinstitute a much more limited state of emergency that's, around healthcare facilities. But the Attorney General's office did opine that committees that were scheduled for remote could continue to participate remotely and would not necessarily have to have that anchor location that's required for once the public health emergencies are all completed. I do think they have the option to have an anchor location, but you, I think, need to notify that, 7 days or something by FOIA. So because that ended one day and the next one went into effect the same day, there wasn't time to notify the public of the anchor location.
Well, I think Senator, that's a great point and great explanation. My concern is that we're all on the same page with regard to where we are on the legality of the issue, because it doesn't matter, we're going to get criticism either way that we go, and just wanted to make sure I had some clarity on the legal aspect of that. So I appreciate that. And if when we put that out, if we could have a little bit more detail on that, that would be very, very helpful, answering that question in advance versus having to answer it afterwards, as we move along. So appreciate it. Thanks.
That's why we're talking about this right now, because some of these issues that pop up that haven't been discussed at length yet. And, the bottom line is this: we're doing a transition period for next week. If we need to change something, if we need to do resolutions, change our rules, some of that nature to accommodate trying to continue to do some of these things virtual, then we can do that.
Well, that's the
next week. Pardon me?
And that's the point. We've had the conversation. We've talked about it. We understand the ramifications, and here's the answer.
Yeah,
that's all.
So we're going to do this. The transition for next week will be pretty much, the committees will be virtual, but we'll be in session Tuesday and Thursday, pretty much. But we'll put something out by tomorrow, for sure. Any other questions? Okay, next meeting date is April 27th. Anybody have a problem with that date?
What's for lunch?
I don't know. Ask Mr. Catrona there.
Send in your requests. You all know my email address.
I'm just saying there should be a surplus budget amount for lunches, since we haven't had lunches for such a long period of time.
Well, we just found out this morning that 40 million of that just disappeared.
Yeah, I heard that. So yeah, I'm just saying the lunch should be spectacular first time out of the box. So
Ruth Ann, somebody help. Okay. So without any objection, meeting's adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.